The stars shone brightly through the main window of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder. Captain Jinho Park stood with his hands behind his back, watching the vast emptiness of space. After 3 years of deep space exploration, his crew had made many discoveries, but nothing like what waited for them today. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Taewon Lee, the communications officer. His voice was calm, but Jinho could hear the excitement underneath. "It's not from Earth." Jinho turned quickly. "Put it on the main screen." The screen flickered to life. A strange face appeared. The being had blue skin, large eyes, and no visible nose. It spoke in a language Jinho didn't understand, but then switched to perfect English. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Telvax, High Counselor of the Galactic Council. We have been watching your progress and believe it is time for first contact." The bridge crew stared in shock. After centuries of wondering if aliens existed, here was proof, speaking directly to them. Jinho stepped forward. "This is Captain Jinho Park of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder. We are honored to meet you." Telvax smiled, or at least Jinho thought it was a smile. "The honor is ours, Captain. The Galactic Council represents over 200 species across the galaxy. We would like to invite you to our nearest outpost to discuss Earth joining our peaceful federation." Jinho looked at his crew. Dr. Ha-Eun Kim, the ship's xenobiologist, nodded eagerly. She had spent her career studying possible alien life. Now she could meet real aliens. "We accept your invitation," Jinho said, though he felt a small doubt in his mind. The Pathfinder followed the coordinates sent by Telvax. 3 days later, they arrived at a massive space station. It was bigger than any structure humans had ever built, shaped like a wheel with spokes stretching from a central hub. "It's amazing," whispered Ha-Eun as they docked. "Think of all we can learn from them." Jinho put his hand on her shoulder. "Remember your training. We represent all of Earth here." The airlock opened and they stepped into the station. Telvax waited for them with several other aliens of different shapes and sizes. Some had multiple arms, others had scales or feathers. Jinho tried not to stare. "Welcome to Outpost 7, said Telvax. "Please follow me to the council chambers." The humans followed, looking at everything with wonder. The station was full of technology beyond their understanding. They saw ships that could probably travel faster than light, robots that floated in the air, and screens that appeared from nowhere. In the council chambers, representatives from different species sat in a large circle. Jinho and his crew were given seats of honor. "Humans of Earth," Telvax began, "we have watched your species grow and develop. We are impressed by your potential. The Galactic Council offers friendship, knowledge, and protection. We can share technology, medicine, and the wisdom of the stars. What would Earth need to give in return?" Jinho asked. His years in the Earth Navy had taught him to be careful. Telvax spread his forearms wide. "Only friendship and cooperation. All council members share resources and knowledge for the good of all. Your planet has unique resources and your people have unique ideas. Together we all become stronger." For the next 3 days, the humans learned about the council. They were shown amazing technology, told about planets they could visit, and promised cures for many Earth diseases. Ha-Eun spent most of her time in the biological archives, learning about alien species. But on the second day, she found something strange. "Captain, can I speak with you privately?" she asked Jinho during dinner. They walked to a quiet corner of the dining hall. "What is it?" Jinho asked. Ha-Eun looked around to make sure no one could hear. "I found inconsistencies in their biological database. When I tried to access certain files about how they interact with new species, I was blocked. They said those files were restricted," Jinho frowned. "That seems odd for a group that claims to be open and sharing." "There's more," Ha-Eun said. "I was comparing their public biology files with what I observed in the medical bay. Some of the information doesn't match. It's like they're hiding something." Later that night, Taewon Lee, the communications officer, came to Jinho's quarters. "Sir, I've been monitoring the station's transmissions. Most are encrypted, but I caught some fragments. They're talking about Earth differently when they think we're not listening. They mentioned something called Category 7 and resource potential." Jinho's doubts grew stronger. "Keep monitoring, but be discreet. Don't let them know what you're doing." On the final day, Telvax presented a treaty for Earth to join the Council. "Your United Nations can review this document. We hope for a quick agreement so we can begin sharing our knowledge with all humans." Jinho accepted the document. "We will deliver this to Earth's leaders. They will make the final decision." As the crew prepared to leave, Jinho made a decision. Hayun, can you copy any of the restricted files without them knowing? Hayun nodded. I think so. I discovered a backdoor in their system yesterday. Do it, Jinho ordered. And Taewon, record as many of those strange transmissions as you can. The Pathfinder left the station the next day. Telvax and the other council members gave them gifts of technology and medicines to take back to Earth. We look forward to welcoming Earth into the Galactic Council, Telvax said as they departed. Jinho smiled and bowed, but inside he was worried. Thank you for your hospitality, he said. Once they were safely away from the station, Jinho called Haun and Taewon to his quarters. What did you find? Hyun held up a small data device. I copied about 20% of the restricted files before the system detected me. I had to stop to avoid being caught. And I recorded several encrypted transmissions, Taewon added. It will take time to decode them completely. Jinho looked out his window at the stars. First contact should have been a moment of pure joy. Instead, he felt uneasy. When we return to Earth, we'll report everything officially, he told them. But we'll keep these concerns between us for now. I want to know what the Council is hiding before we fully trust them. As the Pathfinder traveled home, Earth received news of the first contact. The whole planet celebrated. The idea of joining a peaceful galactic community, gaining advanced technology, and exploring the stars excited everyone. By the time they reached Earth, the United Nations had already begun preparations to welcome Council representatives. Jinho was surprised how quickly things were moving. Captain Park, your discovery will change human history, said the UN Secretary General during their debriefing. The Council has already sent messages directly to Earth. They're offering medical technology that could cure cancer and clean energy technology that could solve climate change. Sir, Jinho said carefully, I recommend we proceed with caution. We don't know enough about the Council's true intentions. The Secretary General frowned. Their intentions seem clear. They want to help us join the galactic community. Is there something specific that concerns you? Jinho hesitated. Without proof, his concerns sounded like paranoia. No specific evidence, sir. Just a feeling that we should take our time. Feeling noted, Captain. But the world is excited about this opportunity. The UN vote on the treaty is scheduled for next month. Council representatives will arrive next week. As Jinho left the meeting, Hyun and Taewon were waiting. They're not listening to you, Hyun said. No, they're not, Jinho agreed. So we need to find proof. Hyun, work on decoding those files you copied. Taewon, keep working on those transmissions. And keep everything between us for now. As they walked through the UN building, screens everywhere showed news about the Galactic Council. People were celebrating in the streets. Everyone wanted to believe in this bright future among the stars. Jinho watched with mixed feelings. He hoped he was wrong about the Council, but deep in his gut he felt that things were moving too fast. Earth was rushing into the arms of aliens they barely knew. And from his years of military experience, Jinho knew that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. We'll keep digging, he told his friends as they parted ways. Earth deserves to know the truth, whatever it is. Hyun nodded firmly. And we'll find it, Captain. One way or another. Jinho looked up at the night sky where stars twinkled innocently. Somewhere up there, the Galactic Council was waiting. But were they really friends, or was something else hiding behind their friendly faces? He intended to find out before it was too late. 6 months had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. The changes on Earth were amazing. Humans now had spaceships that could travel faster than light. Hospitals used alien medicine to cure diseases that once killed millions. Clean energy from Council technology powered cities without pollution. Most people thought joining the Council was the best thing that ever happened to humanity, but not everyone was so sure. Admiral Jinho Park stood by the window in his new office at the United Earth Space Command. His promotion had come after the successful first contact mission. Now he oversaw Earth's growing space fleet, built with Council technology. Admiral, Dr. Kim is here to see you, his assistant said through the intercom. Send her in. Ha-Yoon Kim entered the office. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. For the past 6 months, she had been secretly studying the files they had copied from the Council database. You look like you haven't slept, Jinho said. I haven't. Not much, Ha-Eun admitted, but I've made progress with the files. That's why I'm here. Jinho gestured to a chair. Tell me. Ha-Eun sat down and placed a tablet on the desk. I finally decrypted some of the most protected files. Jinho, it's worse than we thought. She pulled up a document on the tablet. The Council classifies species into categories based on their potential threat level and usefulness. Humans are listed as Category 7. What does that mean? Jinho asked. Category 7 species have exceptional adaptability and potential military strength. The Council sees these species as both valuable and dangerous. Ha-Un's voice grew quieter. I found records of other Category 7 species. All of them were subjected to what they call controlled development and resource extraction. Jinho felt cold. They're planning to use us. Yes, but slowly, so we don't notice until it's too late. Ha-Un showed him more files. The technology they've given us is amazing, but it all has hidden controls. They can shut it down remotely if we ever resist. Jinho stood up and paced the room. We need more evidence, and we need allies who will believe us. The next day, Jinho invited military strategist Su-Min Choi and engineer Dae-Hyun Kang to a private meeting. He had worked with both of them before and trusted their judgment. What I'm about to tell you is classified, Jinho began. He explained Ha-Un's discoveries and his own suspicions. Su-Min nodded slowly. This matches what I've observed. All our new warships have been retrofitted with Council technology, but I've noticed something strange. There are systems I can't access or modify. When I ask Council advisors about them, they always change the subject. I've seen similar things in the civilian sector, Dae-Hyun added. And there's more. Those medical treatments the Council provided? They contain nanobots that supposedly help with healing, but they also collect data on human physiology. I discovered this by accident when running tests on my own blood after treatment for a broken arm. Jinho looked at each of them. We need proof that no one can deny. We need to know the Council's full plan for Earth. I might be able to help with that, Ha-Un said. I've been working on breaking into more of their encrypted files. With Dae-Hyun's help, I might be able to access the complete database. Do it, Jinho ordered. But be careful. If the Council discovers what we're doing, they'll move against us. For the next month, the small group worked in secret. Ha-Un and Dae-Hyun spent long hours trying to break the Council's encryption. Su-Min analyzed Council military patterns and history. Jinho used his position to gather information about Earth's relationship with the Council. Without raising suspicion, their breakthrough came when Ha-Un finally accessed the Council's historical records. You all need to see this, she said during an emergency meeting in Jinho's secure office. She displayed a series of charts showing how the Council had expanded over thousands of years. Look at what happens to new member species. At first, they're given technology and aid, just like us. But within 20 years, they begin contributing more resources to the Council than they receive. Within 50 years, most of their military is controlled by Council commanders. Within a century, they've essentially become slave worlds, providing resources and soldiers while the original Council species reap the benefits. Su-Min studied the military data. The pattern is clear. The Council doesn't want partners. They want servants, but why all the deception? Dae-Hyun asked. With their technology, they could just conquer us. Direct conquest is messy and expensive, Su-Min explained. This way, we willingly give them what they want and even thank them for the privilege. Jinho looked grim. We need to develop countermeasures without the Council knowing. Dae-Hyun, can you find a way to neutralize their remote control of our technology? Dae-Hyun thought for a moment. Possibly. Their systems are advanced, but not perfect. If I can understand how the control signals work, I might be able to block them. And we need to find out if we have allies, Jinho added. Surely other recent member species have noticed what's happening. Over the next few months, they each worked on their tasks while maintaining normal duties to avoid suspicion. The Council representatives on Earth continued to praise human progress and offer new technology. More humans were invited to work on Council stations and ships. On the surface, the relationship seemed perfect. But beneath this friendly exterior, Jinho's team made disturbing discoveries. Dae-Hyun found that the nanobots in Council medical treatments were collecting detailed information about human biology. They're mapping our strengths and weaknesses, he reported, learning exactly how to control or defeat us if necessary. Su-Min discovered that Council military advisors were subtly directing Earth's defense forces to become dependent on Council supply chains and command structures. They're positioning themselves so they can take control of our military with the push of a button, she warned. Most disturbing was Ha-Un's discovery about the true nature of Council technology. They don't create new technology, she explained during a secret meeting. They've been recycling the same advancements for thousands of years. They guide each new species toward technological dependence rather than innovation. How do you know this? Jinho asked. I found their technology development logs, Ha-Un replied. The Council doesn't research or invent anymore. They rely on newer species for fresh ideas, which they then control and limit. They're afraid of true innovation because it might threaten their power. Jinho considered this information, so they want our creativity and adaptability, but only if they can control it. Exactly, Ha-Un nodded. And they're particularly interested in humans because we develop new ideas faster than most species they've encountered. Their meeting was interrupted by an urgent call from Dae-hyun. I've done it, he said when they connected securely. I've found a way to block their control signals. It's not perfect yet, but I'm making progress. Good work, Jinho said. How soon until you can implement it? I need another month to test it properly, Dae-hyun replied. We'll only get one chance at this. If we move too soon and it fails, the Council will know what we're doing. Jinho agreed. They needed to be certain their countermeasures would work. As they continued their preparations, news came that made their work even more urgent. The Council announced that High Counselor Telvax himself would visit Earth for a special announcement. The visit was scheduled for the following month. This is either very good or very bad, Sumin said when they discussed the news. We need to be ready before Telvax arrives, Jinho decided. Dae-hyun, push your timeline forward. We need those countermeasures ready. I'll try, Dae-hyun promised. But rushing could mean mistakes. We may not have a choice, Jinho said grimly. I believe Telvax is coming to take the next step in their plan for Earth. We need to be ready to resist. The days passed quickly as they worked. Dae-hyun barely slept as he perfected his blocking technology. Ha-Yun continued to gather evidence from the Council's secret files. Somin developed military strategies that could work even if Council technology failed. 1 week before Telvax's arrival, they met again in Jinho's secure office. Time for a progress report, Jinho said. Dae-hyun, are the countermeasures ready? Dae-hyun nodded, though he looked exhausted. Yes, I've developed a system that can block their control signals. It's small enough to be hidden in our existing technology. I've already begun secretly installing it in key systems. Ha-Yun, what's the latest from the Council files? Ha-Yun looked troubled. I found a briefing prepared for Telvax about his visit to Earth. They're planning to announce that due to a supposed threat from outside Council space, Earth must provide significant resources and military support. It's how they begin the resource extraction phase with every new species. Jinho turned to Sumin. And our military options? Limited, but not hopeless, Sumin replied. I've identified key officers who might support us if shown the evidence. And I've developed strategies that use human unpredictability to our advantage. The Council relies too much on technology and standard tactics. They don't adapt well to surprises. Jinho looked at his team with pride. Despite overwhelming odds, they had found ways to resist. We have 1 week until Telvax arrives, he said. We need to finalize our preparations. If the Council is planning to begin exploiting Earth, we need to be ready to expose their true agenda and protect our planet. Admiral Jinho Park knew they couldn't fight the Galactic Council alone. Humans were still new to space travel, and despite their preparations, the Council had thousands of years of experience. They needed allies. We need to find other species who have concerns about the Council, Jinho told his team during their secure meeting. Recent members who might have noticed the same patterns we have. But how do we contact them without the Council knowing? Ha-Yun asked. All official communications go through Council systems. Jinho smiled slightly. Not all communications. I have an idea. The next day, Jinho invited diplomat Mireille Yoon to his office. Mireille had been working with Council representatives since Earth joined the Federation. She was smart, observant, and Jinho had known her family for years. Thank you for coming, Jinho said after his office was secured against listening devices. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. Mireille listened carefully as Jinho explained what they had discovered about the Council's true intentions. Unlike many humans who were completely charmed by the aliens, Mireille's expression grew more serious with each revelation. I've noticed things that didn't make sense, she admitted when Jinho finished. Questions that Council representatives avoid answering. Contradictions in their explanations about how member worlds contribute resources. We need to know if other recent member species have similar concerns, Jinho explained. As a diplomat, you have legitimate reasons to speak with representatives from other worlds. Mireille nodded slowly. Yes, I can do that. But we'll need to be careful. The council monitors most official meetings. That's why we need to create unofficial ones, Jinho replied. Over the next 2 weeks, Mireille arranged a series of cultural exchange events with representatives from other relatively new council members. On the surface, these were friendly gatherings to share art, food, and music. But they also provided opportunities for private conversations away from council monitoring. At the third such event, Mireille found herself speaking quietly with Keltor, a representative from the Keltorian species who had joined the council just 20 years earlier. Your world has integrated well with council technology, Mireille commented casually as they stood admiring Earth artwork. Keltor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of emotion in his species. Yes, the council has been very helpful with our development, Mireille noted his hesitation. We're still adapting to some aspects of the relationship. The resource quotas seem to increase each quarter. That is the way of things, Keltor said carefully. The needs of the greater galactic community must be met. Of course, Mireille agreed. Though I've noticed our quotas are significantly higher than older member worlds. Keltor looked around to make sure no council officials were nearby. That is also the way of things. New members contribute more because they have received more recent benefits. Is that the official explanation? Mireille asked, Keltor's voice lowered. It is the explanation we are given. Whether it is true... He left the sentence unfinished. Mireille took a risk. Perhaps we could discuss this further in a less formal setting? I would be interested in learning more about Keltorian culture. The alien studied her for a moment, seeming to understand her true meaning. Yes, I would be honored. Perhaps at your Earth embassy tomorrow? I understand you have a garden there with plants from your world. I am a biology enthusiast. Perfect, Mireille smiled. The garden has no surveillance for the protection of certain rare species. We can speak freely there. The next day, Mireille met Keltor in the embassy garden. Away from council monitoring, the alien spoke more openly. Your suspicions are correct, Keltor said quietly. In the 20 years since we joined the council, our world has lost control of our main resources. Our military now serves council interests, not our own. We were promised a golden age among the stars. Instead, we have become servants. Why hasn't your people resisted? Mireille asked. By the time we realized the truth, it was too late. Council technology controls our infrastructure, our defense systems, even our medical treatments. If we resist, they can shut everything down. Keltor's 4 eyes looked sad, and they ensure that each species stands alone. We are not permitted to form alliances with other new members. Mireille leaned forward. But what if we could? What if we could find a way to communicate and work together without the council knowing? Keltor seemed both hopeful and afraid. That would be prohibited, but if it were possible... He paused. There are others who share these concerns. The Vashnar joined just before us and the Ildurians after. Their representatives have hinted at similar frustrations. Could you arrange informal meetings with them? Mireille asked. Keltor considered this. Perhaps, but we must be extremely careful. When Mireille reported this conversation to Jinho and the team, they were encouraged. This confirms everything we've suspected, Haen said. The council has been using the same strategy for thousands of years. And now we know we're not alone in our concerns, Jinho added. Mireille, continue these discussions. Find out how many potential allies we have. Over the next month, Mireille met secretly with representatives from the Keltorians, the Vashnar, and the Ildurians. Each species told similar stories of gradually losing autonomy after joining the council. The Vashnar, a physically powerful species, had been slowly transformed into soldiers for council conflicts. We once were explorers and builders, their representative Vashna explained during a secret meeting. Now 90% of our young serve in council military forces, fighting wars we don't understand for resources we never receive. The Ildurians, whose home planets contained rare minerals, watched as their worlds were slowly stripped of resources. They call it fair trade, but the technology they give us breaks down and requires constant replacement parts only they can provide, explained Elder Ildu. Meanwhile, our mountains disappear into their cargo ships. When all 3 representatives were finally brought together in a secure location beneath the Earth embassy, they were shocked to meet each other. The council told us we were the only ones experiencing temporary imbalances in the relationship, Keltor said angrily. They assured us it was normal and would improve with time. They told us the same, Vashana nodded. They keep us isolated from each other to prevent exactly this kind of meeting. Elder Ildu turned to Mireille. But why are humans different? How have you discovered the truth so quickly when it took us years? Mireille smiled. Humans are naturally suspicious, especially our military leaders like Admiral Park. And we were fortunate. We managed to copy some of their restricted files during first contact. Meanwhile, Daehyun and his engineering team had been working tirelessly to develop technology that could counteract council control systems. In a secure underground lab, they tested their latest invention. This device can detect and block the signals used to remotely control council technology, Daehyun explained to Jin Ho during a demonstration. We've also developed a way to neutralize the nanobots they've been putting in their medical treatments. Jin Ho watched as Daehyun activated a council communication device, then used his blocker to shut it down. How many of these can you produce? We've already started mass production in secret facilities, Daehyun replied. By the time Telvax arrives, we'll have enough to protect our key military and infrastructure systems. What about for our potential allies? Jin Ho asked. Daehyun hesitated. That's more complicated. Each species has different technology. I would need samples from their worlds to adapt our countermeasures. Work with Mireille to get those samples, Jin Ho ordered. If we're going to stand against the Council, we need all the allies we can get. In another part of the Earth Defense Command, Sumin Choi had been developing military strategies that could work against the technologically superior Council. She focused on humanity's unique strengths. The Council relies on predictable, programmed responses, she explained to Jin Ho during a briefing. Their military doctrine hasn't changed significantly in centuries, because it's always been effective against species who adopt their technology and tactics. But humans are different. Jin Ho asked. Very different, Sumin confirmed. We adapt quickly. We use unconventional approaches, and most importantly, we're unpredictable. Our military history is full of examples where, technologically, inferior forces defeated superior ones through surprise and innovation. She showed Jin Ho simulations where human tactics confused and overwhelmed Council standard responses. They expect us to use their technology in the ways they've designed it. But we can use it differently, combine it with our own ideas, create approaches they've never seen before. Jin Ho was impressed. How soon can you train our forces in these strategies? I've already begun with a select group of officers, Sumin replied. By the time we need to act, we'll have a core force ready. As their preparations continued, Hyun made another critical discovery in the Council files. Jin Ho, you need to see this, she said urgently during an emergency meeting. I've found evidence that the Council doesn't actually create new technology at all. For millennia, they've been recycling the same advancements, guiding newer species toward technological dependence rather than true innovation. She displayed ancient records showing how the Council had systematically limited the development of member species. The United Nations Great Hall was filled with representatives from every nation on Earth. Giant screens showed people gathered in public squares around the world, all waiting to hear High Counselor Telvax's special announcement. The atmosphere was celebratory. In just 6 months, Earth had advanced more than in the previous century. Admiral Jin Ho Park sat in the front row alongside other military leaders. His face revealed nothing of the tension he felt inside. Beside him sat Dr. Hyun Kim, looking calm despite the importance of the moment. Across the hall, engineer Dae-hyun Kang pretended to check his tablet, but was actually monitoring the countermeasures they had secretly installed throughout Earth's infrastructure. Diplomat Mi Rae-yoon stood near the stage, part of the official welcoming committee. Near her, carefully positioned as cultural observers, were the representatives from the Keltorians, Vashnar, and Ildurians. They too showed no sign of the secret alliance they had formed. The room fell silent as High Counselor Telvax glided onto the stage. The blue-skinned alien raised all 4 arms in a gesture of greeting that had become familiar to humans over the past months. People of Earth, Telvax began. His voice translated perfectly through the advanced sound system. 6 months ago, we welcomed you into the galactic community. Today, I come with both good news and a request for your assistance. Jin Ho exchanged a quick glance with Haun. Here it comes, his eyes said. The good news is that Earth's integration into the Galactic Council has been remarkably successful. Telvax continued. Your adaptability and creativity have impressed all Council species. Applause filled the hall. Telvax waited for it to die down before continuing. However, I must now speak of a serious matter. The Council faces a threat from beyond our borders. A hostile force threatens the peace and stability we have maintained for millennia. Murmurs spread through the crowd. This was the first humans had heard of any external threat. To meet this challenge, the Council requires the support of all member worlds. Earth, with its rich resources and adaptable population, is in a unique position to help. Telvax's voice grew more solemn. We request that Earth provide 40% of its mineral resources and 100,000 soldiers to the Council Defense Force. Shocked whispers filled the hall. The request was enormous, far beyond anything mentioned in the original treaty. The UN Secretary-General stepped forward. High Counselor, we are committed to the Council and grateful for all you have shared with us. But this request is unexpected. Can you provide more information about this threat? Where is it coming from? Why have we not been informed until now? Telvax's expression hardened slightly. The details are classified for security reasons. The Council has determined that limited information sharing is necessary to prevent panic and maintain strategic advantage. Jinho saw his opportunity. He stood up. High Counselor, Admiral Park requests permission to speak, the Secretary-General announced, looking slightly surprised. Telvax seemed annoyed by the interruption, but nodded. Of course. The Council values all perspectives. Jinho walked to the podium carrying a small data device. Thank you, High Counselor. As Earth's military representative, I have some questions about this external threat. Our defense planning requires specific information to properly allocate resources. As I explained, the details are classified. Telvax repeated firmly. Classified, Jinho said slowly, like the Council's Category 7 species protocols, or like the resource extraction plans for Earth that were prepared before we even signed the treaty. Telvax froze, his large eyes widening. I don't know what you're referring to, Admiral. Jinho plugged his data device into the podium system. Then allow me to show everyone. He nodded to Han, who activated her tablet. The large screens around the hall, which had been showing the crowds outside, suddenly displayed Council documents that Han had decrypted. The information scrolled for everyone to see. Classification of humans as Category 7, plans for resource extraction, military conscription schedules, all dated before Earth had even joined the Council. What is this? The Secretary-General demanded, looking from the screens to Telvax. Misinformation, Telvax said quickly. Fabricated documents designed to create distrust. Jinho turned to the audience. These files were copied directly from the Council database during our first contact. They reveal the Council's true purpose, not to welcome Earth as an equal partner, but to slowly turn us into a resource colony, just as they have done with countless species before. Telvax's voice turned cold. This is a serious accusation, Admiral. The Council has brought only benefits to Earth. Benefits with hidden costs, Jinho replied. He nodded to Mireille, who stepped forward with the alien representatives. High Counselor, Mireille said clearly, I present representatives from the Keltorians, Vashnar, and Ildurians, all species who joined the Council within the last 50 years. They have something to share with Earth. One by one, the aliens described how their worlds had been slowly stripped of resources and autonomy after joining the Council. Their testimony matched exactly what Jinho's team had discovered in the Council files. Telvax's blue skin darkened with anger. This is unprecedented. These representatives have no authority to speak here. This meeting is over. He touched a device on his wrist. Council security contained this situation. Council security forces stationed around the hall moved forward, weapons ready. But Jinho had anticipated this. Now, Daehyun, he said into his communicator. Across the hall, Daehyun activated the countermeasures they had developed. The Council weapons made a strange humming sound but did not fire. What is happening? Demanded a Council security officer looking at his useless weapon. We've modified your weapons, Jinho explained calmly. They no longer function on Earth, just as we've neutralized all Council control systems throughout our planet. Telvax's face showed shock for the first time. Impossible. No new species has ever... Humans are not like other species you've encountered, Jinho interrupted. We suspected your deception from the beginning. While you thought we were eagerly adopting your technology, we were studying it, understanding it, and modifying it. The Secretary General stepped forward, her face showing a mixture of anger and disbelief. High Counselor, is this true? Have you been planning to exploit Earth from the start? Telvax looked around the hall, seeing hostile faces from humans and other alien representatives alike. For a moment he seemed at a loss for words, then his expression hardened. You misunderstand the Council's intentions, he said. Yes, we guide newer species and utilize their resources, but for the greater good of all. Without our leadership, the galaxy would fall into chaos. Leadership or control? Jinho asked. He nodded to Ha-Un, who displayed more files on the screens. These records show that the Council hasn't developed any truly new technology in over 3,000 years. Instead, you harvest innovations from new species, then limit their development to prevent them from becoming equals. Murmurs of anger spread through the crowd as people began to understand the full extent of the deception. Telvax touched his wrist device again, more urgently this time. Council Command Emergency Protocol Alpha, activate control systems. Jinho smiled slightly. That won't work either. We've blocked all Council control signals to Earth technology. Your hidden backdoors into our systems are closed. This is outrageous, Telvax shouted, his composure finally breaking. Earth signed a binding treaty. You are obligated to provide the resources and support we require. A treaty obtained through deception is not binding, Mireille stated firmly. She held up a document. The Earth legal team has prepared this declaration, nullifying our agreement with the Council based on evidence of fraudulent representation. Telvax looked around the hall, seeming to realize how completely his plans had unraveled. The Council will not accept this. We have the power to blockade Earth to cut off your access to the galaxy. You could try, Jinho acknowledged, but it would reveal to all Council worlds that Earth has successfully resisted your control. How many other species might follow our example if they knew it was possible? The alien representative stepped forward again. It would not just be Earth, said Keltor of the Keltorians. My people will stand with humans against Council exploitation. As will the Vashnar, added Vashna. And the Ildurians, said Elder Ildu. Telvax stared at them in disbelief. You dare to form an alliance? This violates the most basic Council protocols. Protocols designed to keep us isolated and weak, Jinho pointed out. But no longer. Today, Earth announces the formation of the Galactic Cooperative, a new alliance based on true equality and mutual respect. The Secretary General looked surprised but quickly recovered. Admiral, while I agree with exposing these deceptions, forming a new galactic alliance is beyond your authority. Of course, Jinho bowed slightly. I merely proposed the concept for your consideration, Madam Secretary. The details must be negotiated properly by Earth's legitimate representatives. The Secretary General turned to Telvax. High Counselor, in light of these revelations, Earth must reconsider its relationship with the Galactic Council. We request that all Council representatives leave our planet while we evaluate this situation. Telvax's eyes narrowed. This is a grave mistake. Earth cannot survive alone in the galaxy. News of Earth's resistance spread through the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in thousands of years, a new species had not only discovered the Council's true agenda, but had successfully opposed it. The carefully maintained illusion of the Council's benevolent leadership began to crack. 1 month after Telvax's humiliating departure from Earth, Jinho Park stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Earthship Independence. Unlike earlier vessels built with Council technology, the Independence incorporated innovations from humans, Keltorians, Vashnar, and Ildurians. It represented a true collaboration of ideas without Council restrictions. Admiral, we're ready to depart, announced the ship's captain. Jinho nodded. Thank you, Captain. Signal the fleet to prepare for jump. Through the viewport, Jinho could see 5 other ships waiting. This small fleet was heading to Keltor, the homeworld of their allies, to help implement the technology that would free them from Council control. Mireille Yun joined Jinho at the viewport. Once a diplomat for Earth Council relations, she now served as ambassador to the newly formed Galactic Cooperative. Nervous? She asked. Cautiously optimistic, Jinho replied with a small smile. The Council hasn't directly challenged us yet, but they will. This mission to Keltor could be the trigger. Or it could inspire more worlds to join us, Mireille countered. The reports from my diplomatic channels suggest at least 15 other species are watching closely to see if we succeed. The fleet departed Earth orbit, using the modified faster-than-light drive that Daehyun's team had improved. The Council's version had hidden limiters and tracking devices. The human version was 30% faster and completely secure from Council monitoring. 3 days later, they arrived at Keltor. The blue-green planet looked peaceful from orbit, but Jinho knew the reality on the surface was tense. Council administrators still controlled most of the planet's infrastructure and resources. "Admiral, we're being hailed by Council ships," the communications officer reported. "They're demanding we leave Keltorian space immediately." "Open a channel," Jinho ordered. When the connection was established, he spoke clearly. "Council Command, this is Admiral Park of Earth. We are here at the invitation of the Keltorian government to participate in a cultural exchange. We have no hostile intentions." The Council commander's face appeared on screen. "Cultural exchange? You bring warships to a peaceful Council world and claim peaceful intentions? These are exploration vessels with standard defensive capabilities," Jinho replied calmly. "And Keltor is not a Council world. It is a sovereign planet whose people have chosen to welcome us." Before the commander could respond, another transmission cut in. It was Keltor, the Keltorian representative who had stood with Earth. "Council Command, as Senior Minister of the Keltorian government, I confirm that Earth ships are here at our request. The Cultural Exchange Treaty was filed with Council Central 3 weeks ago." The Council commander looked confused. Cultural exchanges were common and technically allowed under Council law. It was a clever use of the Council's own rules against them. "Very well," the commander said reluctantly. "But be warned. Any attempt to interfere with Council operations on Keltor will be considered an act of war." "Understood," Jinho replied politely. "We have no intention of interfering with legitimate Council operations." The key word was legitimate. As the transmission ended, Jinho turned to Mireille with a slight smile. "Phase 1 complete. They can't stop us from landing without violating their own laws." On the surface of Keltor, the Earth delegation was welcomed by cheering crowds. The four-eyed Keltorians lined the streets, waving both their own flags and hastily made Earth flags. Council administrators watched with obvious concern, but could not intervene without causing an incident. In a secure facility beneath the Keltorian capital, Daehyun Kang met with Keltorian scientists. They spread out plans for the technology that had freed Earth from Council control. "The key is understanding how their control signals work," Daehyun explained. "They use a specific frequency that most species never detect, because the Council provides all scanning equipment with a built-in blind spot." The lead Keltorian scientist, Kelna, studied the plans with all four eyes wide. "Ingenious. Once we see it, the solution is relatively simple. But how did you discover this?" "Human paranoia," Daehyun said with a laugh. "We built our own scanners instead of just using Council equipment. The rest was trial and error." For the next 2 weeks, the combined team worked to adapt the Earth countermeasures to Keltorian systems. The challenge was greater than on Earth. Council technology had been integrated into Keltor for 20 years, not just 6 months. Meanwhile, Jinho and Mireille met with Keltorian government officials, many of whom were still loyal to the Council out of fear or habit. "The Council has maintained peace for thousands of years," argued one elder minister. "Yes, they take resources, but they also protect us from threats beyond our borders." "What threats?" Jinho asked pointedly. "Has the Council ever shown evidence of these supposed dangers?" The minister hesitated. "Well, no, but they maintain that information is classified for security reasons." Mireille leaned forward. "Just as they claim to Earth when demanding our resources. Yet when pressed, they could provide no proof. We believe these external threats are manufactured to justify their control. Slowly, they won over more Keltorian leaders, especially as Daehyun's team began demonstrating the blocking technology in controlled tests. When Council systems failed to activate in certain areas, the Keltorians saw proof that freedom was possible. On the 15th day, Council administrators finally realized what was happening. They attempted to activate emergency protocols to lock down Keltorian infrastructure, only to find their commands ignored by systems protected with Earth's technology. The Council's regional governor demanded an emergency meeting with Jinho, Mireille, and the Keltorian leaders. This is a direct violation of council law. The governor fumed, his tentacle appendages writhing in agitation. Earth is exporting dangerous technology and encouraging rebellion. Jin-Ho remained calm. We are sharing scientific knowledge with our friends as permitted under Article 37 of the Council Charter, on cultural exchange. Scientific knowledge that undermines council authority. The governor shouted, "If your authority relies on hidden control mechanisms, perhaps it deserves to be undermined," Mireille replied smoothly. The governor looked from face to face, seeing determination in both human and Keltorian eyes. "The High Council will not tolerate this. Military action will be authorized." "Is that a threat of war against both Earth and Keltor?" asked the Keltorian Prime Minister, who had recently joined the resistance. "Because that would violate the Council's own founding charter, which forbids military action against member worlds except in cases of extreme aggression." The governor had no good response. The Council had always relied on their hidden controls and the isolation of member species. Direct military action would expose their true nature to the entire galaxy. "This meeting is over," the governor said finally, "but there will be consequences." As the governor left, Jin-Ho turned to the Keltorian leaders. "We need to accelerate our plans. The Council will try something soon." They didn't have to wait long. That night, Council ships in orbit attempted to cut off all communication between Keltor and the rest of the galaxy. At the same time, Council security forces moved to seize key government buildings. But Dae-hyun and the Keltorian scientists had anticipated this. Emergency backup systems using Earth technology maintained communications, and Keltorian security forces, newly freed from Council control signals, protected their government. By morning, the Council forces had retreated to their compound, effectively under siege by the very people they had ruled for 2 decades. "What happens now?" the Keltorian Prime Minister asked Jin-Ho as they surveyed the situation from the government center. "Now we extend the offer I'm authorized to make," Jin-Ho replied. "Earth invites Keltor to become a founding member of the Galactic Cooperative, equal partners in creating a new interstellar community based on mutual respect and true cooperation." The Prime Minister's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep emotion. After 20 years of growing Council control to be offered genuine partnership, he straightened his posture. "Keltor accepts." The news was broadcast across the planet. Celebrations erupted in every Keltorian city as people realized they were finally free from Council manipulation. The Council forces, seeing the overwhelming public support for the new alliance, had no choice but to evacuate. Their ships departed Keltorian space, retreating to nearby Council strongholds. Over the next 6 months, similar scenes played out on Vashnar and Ildurian worlds. Each time the Earth fleet arrived with technology and expertise, helped implement the countermeasures, and offered membership in the cooperative. And each time, more Council worlds watched and wondered if they too could break free. 1 year after Telvax's humiliating departure from Earth, representatives from 50 former Council worlds gathered in New York for the first official assembly of the Galactic Cooperative. The Grand Hall of the United Nations had been expanded to accommodate delegates of all shapes, sizes, and environmental needs.